All right. So good evening. It's Monday, February 5th, 2024, and I'm calling the special meeting of the Board of Education to order at 6:03 PM. And tonight's special meeting will begin with a budget work session, Chapter 4, Operations.
All right. So we are really going to be looking at Sam's portion of the budget with maintenance and facilities and transportation and his CIPs. We've discussed making sure that we've included CK and Northeast Academy this year. We're resubmitting them to John Burt. We've let him know that we want to resubmit to have it on for this year's CIP. So we heard loud and clear, and we knew that needed to happen. I know that they've told us no in the past, but I think we have to continue persevering to say that this heating and air conditioning all at the same time is costing us a lot of money and hasn't really resolved the issue, which needs to happen, which is the replacement of these HVAC systems on the top of 15-year-old buildings that, are not efficient or working properly. So we're going to be adding that. So I'm going to... I am sorry. So I started out by saying we're going to be starting this operations discussion with Sam Kilpatrick, who is our facilities director, transportation director. He wears a lot of different hats here. And he is going to make sure that he covers all of that information and the CIPs. I did add that we know we have a problem at both Catherine Kolnowski and at Northeast Academy with the heating and air conditioning. They're only 15-year-old buildings, but we knew through an efficiency study that they weren't working properly, so we've had it in our CIPs for probably 5 years now. And it just keeps moving ahead a year, but we're putting it in for 2025. And we've talked to the town manager about this and saying that this request needs to be paid attention to by the town because, it's costing a fortune to heat and air condition, but that has caused us to keep safe, secure, healthy buildings, but it's not really the answer to the problem. So I think we can start, Sam, with your operations. What did you want to do first, the CIP and then the maintenance, or do you have?
I'll do operations, maintenance, and I'll do transportation, and then the non-public transportation, and then if we could go into the CIPs after that.
Okay.
That'd be great.
And notice that you should have your books filled with all of the function codes, and they are numerical, and they are paginated, which should cause us less grief than last time. I was even having a hard time keeping track. So we thought chapters would work, but I think this works better. Next year, no chapters. We'll go right into it, okay?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
What page are you on?
So we are going to the back of the book to the pink slip, all the way to the pink.
Okay.
That's where all of our function codes are. And then, Sam, you'll orient us to section
89.
5.
Thank you.
And what is it, 88?
89.
89. And you can talk to us about the staff and all that comes under your facility and operation leadership.
Okay. Good evening. So our department, operations and maintenance, includes myself as the director. I have a custodial supervisor, a maintenance coordinator, and an administrative assistant. There are 12 maintenance technicians with different expertise. And 37 and a half custodians. And 13 of those 37 and a half are actually half-time. So that's our personnel. And what we are charged with in our department is maintaining a clean, safe environment for our staff and students, and to do that in as efficient a manner as possible. So going on to page 90, you can see the administration costs, et cetera, custodial for these persons that I just mentioned up above from page 89. And the increase of 10.2% in that area is contractual. wanted to point out, I know that probably some of these things, I can go line by line, but I was just going to jump down to professional services, for instance, where there's no increase there. Those are outside professional services or outside contractors, like Belfour that we had to hire for the water damage that we had. Might include Train, which is a heating air condition outside contractor. Mystic Air, who does asbestos testing for us, or indoor air quality testing for us, and maybe something like New England Mechanical if one of our technicians aren't able to handle that particular function. So that's where professional services are. And you can see from 22, 23, it did increase there, but not for this year. So the other big number is in the repairs to grounds. The increase is 53,000, and that is due to some of the contracts that we have in that area. You have Mystic Landscape, and that also includes a supervisor for the Town of Groton Public Works Department. They maintain the baseball, football field at the high school, and the multi-purpose field, grass field that's between the artificial field and the softball field at Groton Middle School. So that includes that supervisor's increase there too over at Public Works. Weren't too many other big increases. I guess there was one, there'll probably be some question about rentals, other rentals, and a small increase there. That's for our mail machines that we have throughout the district, U.S. mail machines, and the water cooler rentals out there. And moving on to building protection, though the number has remained steady there. You can see it was up in 22, 23, slightly down there, but will even out. Those are all fire code testing that we have to do. There's Condon Electric that does testing during the summertime of all of our systems. A&L Sprinkler, which does sprinkler testing, which has to be done at least annually, and also they do repairs on sprinkler systems for us. And Rue Security, which is a Groton firm, we've had to hire them in the last couple of years. The Paquonic Bridge Fire Department has eliminated the box system that they had throughout the district. Remember the red boxes that said fire on them, and you would go in there and you'd pull a lever? Those have been eliminated, and we had to hire an outside firm so that when that alarm comes in from the school, it actually goes to Rue, which is a Groton company, and then to dispatch from there. So the fire boxes themselves have been eliminated. And then, of course, the other purchase services, again, these are when it says other purchase services, people are always asking what those other things are, so I thought I'd mention that again. That's number 491 down at the bottom. Again, things that are required by the state. Cone elevator, need elevator inspections and/or repairs when needed. Encore does our suppression systems in the kitchens. There's also mechanical municipal emergency services, which is actually the name of the company that does all of our fire extinguishers on an annual basis, and a company called Tin Man, which does kitchen exhaust systems, which need to be cleaned at least annually, which we do. So that's all of page 90, so if you have any questions in that area, I'd be happy to.
Jen? And then Adrian.
I have a question on going back to page 89, where it says changes from 24 to 25. We have 1.5 additional FTEs. If you can explain that in your notes section, Sam, down below.
Yes, we've added a custodians here at central office, which we never had during the daytime before.
Okay.
And for Mary Morrison, which we've opened or are now using for our food service department, and ECAT, which is Early Childhood Assessment Team, is over there too. So we have cleaning and maintenance to do over there, so.
And it
those
kind
are
of
the people
details up above, Jen, where the FTE change is. So it looks like there were 2.5 addition at the elementary. There was a deduction of a 0.5. So the total differential is 2, which is the 0.5 from Art Besser, and then the 1.5 additional FTE that you were just speaking about.
Right.
Okay. But it's good to know that it's Central and Mary Morrison.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Adrian?
Yeah, so outside of the FTEs that we're adding, that 10.2% increase in salaries, is that contractual increases? Or
Yes.
did we? All right, so those are committed?
Yes.
All right.
And the addition of custodial during the day at central office is because we have the,
There's a lot more activity up here now with the Transition Academy and also the
Apex Learning.
group that's across from my office.
Central Office Academy.
They call that Central Office Academy?
Yeah.
COA.
And I
I
would
see
say
them, but I
it's a
haven't seen any
working
sign on
building,
it.
so you have a lot of staff in the different offices and departments. So it's real, we really added that around COVID time. But it was really necessary. When we don't have that person, you can really see the difference.
Right.
any other questions about pages 89 and 90?
Okay, we can move over to page 92. And most of these are, I think, is Dave on tonight? He would probably speak to the insurance increase, that sort of thing, if he's on board.
Yeah, I think this 91 and 92 is going to come for Wednesday.
We're going
I
to wait
think-
till Wednesday on this?
Yeah, and then I think you flip over your next section, I think is transportation,
I can do that.
93.
Yep. Okay, so in the Transportation Department, I'm the administrator in that department, and we have 2 full-time employees, which are the 2 coordinators that we have here in the main office. And they, on a daily basis, are making changes to bus routes, depend upon whether kids come or leave the district. People move within the district, and parents often request that children are picked up or dropped off to another address based on childcare a lot of times. So there are many different reasons for them, but, so there are 2 full-timers there. And then, of course, we have the 18 and a half bus age, which are for the special needs kids that are on those special need buses. Of course, we have roughly 4,000 students that we are transporting from home to school and back to home safely. So that's our main goal. And of the 4,000 kids, roughly, we can go on to page, unless there are some questions on this. I was going to go over to this is all for public transportation, the buses?
Beverly has a question.
Okay.
Bev?
Yeah, quick question, Sam. If the school bus aides are still 18.5, there's no change, why is there a $115,000 decrease?
That's a
Am I reading
decrease.
that right? Huh?
That's a decrease.
Yeah, why is there a $115,000 decrease?
If Dave's on board, I think he can answer that better than I can.
Okay, thanks, Sam.
There was an increase of minimum wage that should have occurred.
Decrease.
I know.
This is
I
a
see, that's why it's kind of confusing. I
Yeah.
can see Bev's point. is Dave on? I know he went home not feeling well, so I don't know if I see
I
him.
have not seen him come on.
Okay.
No, I think this is based on a reduction in the number of aides that we've had over the past couple of years. I'd have to look back a couple of years.
And the number of aides really comes through the PPT process, so for students that need that support on those smaller buses. So that's something that the district doesn't decide. It really comes through the PPT team, which is parents and educators deciding what kind of support a child needs riding the bus. So,
Well,
to me,
I'm not disputing that, but if you have the same number of aides, why wouldn't it be the same amount from last year if nothing's changed?
I'm going to get that answer for you, Ms. Washington, and I'll have it for you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you, Sam.
Yep.
there's also, Sam, you might want to let them know about the special ed transportation other, which would be our Curtin transportation. That's down on line 512. And that is a slight increase.
Yeah, so we have STA just above that for regular ed transportation, but the other transportation is Curtin sometimes, but we've actually run into a couple of instances this past year where we had to hire a company called Mercy, and there was one other group that we hired, I can't remember the name right at the moment. They were out of Rhode Island that we had to use to get a child to ride at the last minute when nobody else was available. So Curtin has been booked up in the past, and so we've had to go with others. But that's transportation provided to our students other than through STA. Might also
Sam,
see
I have one more question, Sam, if you don't mind. I'm sorry to cut you off. Let me know when it's my turn.
Okay, if you want to go, and then Jen had her hand raised as well. So go ahead, Bev.
Sorry, Jen, I apologize.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I know it's a slight increase, but the pupil transportation reimbursement, are you reimbursing those drivers that come from other areas to come up to Groton?
Which line are you on, Bev?
I'm
513.
on 513. I was just curious about the reimbursement.
Yeah, that is our transportation to the magnet schools in New London. That's the reimbursement we get for the transportation to New London schools, to those,
But that goes to the town, is that right?
it goes
That why we
directly to
account for
town. It
this way?
doesn't come
Yeah.
to us.
Well, if it goes to the town, why is it in our budget?
I think we're trying to account for it, that it will be coming to the town, I think.
I think it's probably in the budget because I'm the one who fills out the EDO 21 that goes to the state requesting this money.
But
Maybe
we can
when-
double check on that, Beverly.
When we have Dave,
Yeah,
maybe
that
he
line
can.
in general looks confusing.
It is confusing. You see the minuses and then the plus.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Jen?
This is just a learning purpose. I have two questions. So going back to 512, I know you said it's Curtin, but what is special about the transport of the students in Curtin that they can't utilize the STA in 511?
This would be transportation taking kids outside of the district for the most part.
Outside of the district?
Mostly,
Okay.
yes, but there are actually some that need
Very
to ride
specialized.
alone or maybe with one other student in a small, these would be like minivans, those type of vehicles.
Okay,
So it would be one student, sometimes two students in that vehicle.
okay. And then the second one is like 634, fuel for school buses. If we have a contract with the school bus company, why are we,
We do have a contract with the bus company, and our contract calls for us to pay for the fuel.
oh, it does,
Yes.
okay. Thank you.
And I think we've always chosen to do it that way, so we have a little more control over the filling of the tanks and prices of gas. I
Well,
don't know.
that too, and then we can negotiate the price work with the town and getting a better price on.
That's true.
On the fuel.
Right.
Any other questions on pupil transportation?
Jay, I have one last question, Jay, for Sam. Can they fill their buses up anywhere, or do they have to go to a specific location?
Can you repeat that, Bev? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Sorry. Can they fill their buses up anywhere, or do they go to a specific location to fill their buses?
With gas.
Yes, do they,
Oh,
can they
for
fill at
gas?
any station?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
they use the Shell station that's across from the old Arwood PCC.
Yeah, I was
Yes.
wondering if they use that gas station, because I
When
saw
they
some
use
buses
that,
there.
when they use that, we only, they only charge us for whatever rate we're paying for fuel at the town garage. So if they pay more at the pump, we only pay the difference. We pay whatever we're getting, whatever we're charged from Public Works, the same rate.
And I think you reached out to the town manager to see if some of the smaller buses could go through the town, and I think it depends on the activity level there.
Yeah, we've asked, but we've been denied to do that. He thought that it would be too many vehicles at the pumps to,
Okay. Matthew?
I noticed that the cost of fuel is up approximately 20% over last year. Is that, I thought the price of fuel was going down this last 6-8 months.
well, it wasn't when we wrote this, and hopefully it continues to go down.
Okay,
But we've already agreed with the town on the rates that we're paying for these, for our fuel at this point, so.
They locked them in. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, Jay. So the buses that we hire from STA, are they only used for Groton?
They are only supposed to be used for Groton, yes.
Okay. Because what I'm getting at is this. Driver feels the need to fill the tank up, and they're driving around Groton. But if they're driving around elsewhere, how do we tie the need for the fill-up to actual fuel expended driving our kids around?
Those buses should only be used to transport Groton school children to and from school, or to Ledyard High School, or
Okay.
to the schools that are in New London.
I was going to say, because if you really wanted to snoop, you could say, well, if you knew roughly what the MPG was on the bus and you knew the mileage of all the buses put together, you could sort of do the math and see if the consumption that we're paying for matches the consumption we should expect, given the mileage we're running them around in. But, because I can't remember what the buses say on the side, to be honest.
They say Groton Public Schools.
Right.
So you
Now
may
what?
see them out of town, but they should be delivering or picking up kids.
Right.
Either at the New London schools or at Ledyard High School,
Yeah. Do we
or
have-
on an athletic event.
Do we have any basis for thinking that maybe we're paying for fuel for some other purposes? Or,
No, but we do have GPS on all the vehicles. If we suspected that, we would definitely check the GPS.
okay.
And I think that's why our, business manager has really been fastidious about getting invoices, especially for athletic events, because he wants everything recorded. And they've actually just started doing that. We've been kind of on that case to get all the details, because he has to cross-reference those invoices just for your reasoning.
We can also look at the history of the gallonage over the years as well.
Right. I just thought of another question, if I might, Jay. So we have, with respect to the elementary schools, we have an intra-district magnet system set up. And the idea is to attract kids to different schools for a voluntary reallocation of kids to meet certain goals. Kids do not necessarily go to the elementary school that's nearest them, however you want to draw the lines in town. I don't know what percentage of kids are bused, quote, across town versus going to the school that's closest to them. There was a figure that was quoted to me many years ago when we had to change how we transported kids around. There was griping among some parents, why can't my kid go to the closest school? The figure that was thrown out for the new plan for transporting the kids was about $700,000. I'm not saying that's present here, but at the time, that was sort of the estimate of what we were paying extra to move kids around town, more than would be necessary if you said, okay, the Northeast is the one closest to you, go to that one. Do we have a handle on what we are paying, say for fuel or for, just in terms of busing, to do things the way we're doing them now versus how they could be done if we simply distributed kids by saying, okay, this area is for Catherine Kolnaski, and this area is for Northeast, and so on and so forth. You'd have to run sort of two parallel schemes and then price them out, I suppose. But I'm curious to know what we are paying extra to bus kids around town. More than they would maybe be bused if we had a normal geographic
I
scheme.
wouldn't be surprised if the $700,000 number was in the ballpark. Because we do have kids that are going from North Pleasant Valley Road, which is on the Ledyard line,
Right,
all the way down to Northeast Academy or to Mystic River.
the other
So,
side of town.
the buses are all over town, and
But we
some
can
bus
do a
runs are
study
very
on that.
long
And
based on that, so.
Because I think people should know, because we're promoting the idea of the intra-district magnet, but I think people should also know what these things cost us. Thanks.
I would still say, even though our neighborhoods are larger now, we used to have 10 schools, and now we have 5. So still, the landscape of who's going to the schools is much larger than we have ever had. So, but I would say, and it's, we can absolutely study it, but the majority of those schools have the students who live in that proximity. There's a fewer amount coming from those other places in town. And with the transient nature and the military, holding on to highly mobile seats, it really helps us to balance our numbers across the district, by offering that, which is a good thing. So,
Yeah, I just didn't know whether it's hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands, or what, that we're paying for the, because there is a cost to these efforts, and which presumably have positive results.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought that one of the major reasons that we made the decision was that it really wasn't completely us making the decision. We were highly encouraged to change the distribution of our students on economic basis and other bases around the town.
that was the Groton 2020.
It was not just, as far as I understand, it was not just a matter of choice. It was a matter of rectifying what certain authorities felt were inappropriate distributions.
Meaning Hartford, yes, I know.
Well, meeting Washington as well.
Yeah, but not us, yeah. Just want to know what it costs, that's all.
Okay, maybe we can do a study on that. Are we going to go to the CIPs?
I have one other page to take a look at, and that would be pages 99 and 100, which is non-public pupil transportation. And this is by law, we need to provide transportation to Sacred Heart School in the city of Groton, and this is the cost of that.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Okay. You're absolutely correct. It has to do with the law. And it also has to do with money that we would have to expend if we didn't balance our, the children going to each school. So it's not a matter of anything we chose. It's a matter of the law. And we have to provide transportation even to private schools within the district. That's all.
Okay. Any questions about the non-public pupil transportation? Beverly?
Thank you, Jay. Sam, can you hear me? Okay. Do you get any
Yes.
kind of reimbursement for the, this type of transportation? Because it's to Sacred Heart, correct?
Sacred Heart, that's correct. No, we do not get any, we don't get any direct funding from the state on that. The only reimbursement for transportation that we get is through the EDO 21, which is for out-of-district magnet schools.
So that would be New London.
New London and also Ledger High School.
What about the marine science?
No,
No. Or Grasso? We don't get.
no, they're in town.
Okay, all right.
So we pay for transportation for Grosso for in-town students and marine science?
Yes.
Ian?
Oh, yeah, which line item, I lost the number as far as the, which line item is the non-public transportation?
This is 5-100, function 3710. I like the
Thank you.
pagination. Makes it so much easier
I like this.
to
It's
find
in order.
things. I'm not flipping all night.
Got it, thank you.
I don't have those numbers on here.
Yes, you do,
No, I have those, I don't have 3710.
right here.
Well,
Yep, right up on the function. All right, Jen?
Quick question. So we pay for Grasso and marine science? Is that, like, where do we see that? Or,
It's part of the SDA contract.
oh, okay, because I was wondering, do they have additional routes and are they part of the increase, like, not just our side of the house, but if we can't tell?
They were included when we went out to bid, so they're in part of that.
They're in,
Yeah, they are part of that, Jen.
Yeah, there are students, so we're responsible for transporting them. They're in our town. Did you have a question, Ian?
No, I'm sorry, I left my
Okay.
hand up from.
All right, just
Sorry.
want to make sure I'm not missing anybody.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? If not, where do we go next?
Go on to the CIP projects.
where is that?
And do you have a page for us to look at?
I thought Dave was going to put it up.
Well, I know it should be in the binder. Thought I saw it. Do you see it, Bill?
The function code.
The CIP?
Hey, Clint? Clint?
Yes, ma'am.
These mics are working wonderfully. I can hear everybody clearly. So thank you very much, Clint.
I'm very happy to hear that. Thank you for the feedback, Bev.
Yes. I just don't know if
It should have, it would have been in the board book, I would think, unless there were changes. Were there changes made to it? What's that?
Hold on, hold on,
Wait,
hold
where
on.
did you find capital project?
All
I
right,
think I see it.
Toward the beginning of your binder, unfortunately, this was pre-pagination. So it's after your pie chart, your GPS budget categories, all your pie charts in the beginning, and then you have a landscape of capital projects. It looks like this.
Is it before the yellow tab, right?
Yes, before
Before the
the,
yellow tab.
Thank you.
I knew I had seen it. It's the blue page. There it is.
Well, that's helpful.
you could have winged this without it, but
I've seen it before, so.
Once or twice.
Right. So what you don't have here, and I was hoping, I thought we were going to put that up, but in any event, besides these actual projects that we submitted to the town, there is a page, a summary page that goes before that. And they are the items that the board has asked me in the past to continue to put in on this page so that the town is aware that these needs are still out there. So if you'll indulge me, I'll just read it briefly, and then I can get copies to you later or something, if that's okay, so you have an understanding of where we're going with this. And so this is the school needs summary, and when you see the CIP packet, it'll be before these, the list of these other projects themselves. So in the elementary schools, the projects shown on the individual project sheets are intended to maintain the adequacy of the facilities in their present configuration. However, to meet educational adequacy needs in the future, Charles Barnum Elementary School will also require expanded media center, a full-service kitchen, a larger cafetorium, a gymnasium, and larger redesigned administration spaces, additional resource and remedial program spaces, appropriate instrumental and band program spaces. They could use an art room, a space for school-based health center, and a larger space for the school nurse. So that came from a study that was done prior to my arrival. McKittrick, I think, but don't quote me on that one. And in the secondary schools, the items that we've included here, the Board of Education commissioned a study of the field house and concession stand at the Fitch football facility to comply with gender equality concerns. The architect has submitted plans to accomplish the task by incorporating female and male locker spaces in a new building. The preferred design would include these spaces as well as an area for concessions while removing the existing outdated building, meaning the concession stand that they use now, which is the old field house. The current estimate for this work is $15,490,000. The Board of Ed would seek any grants, both state of Connecticut and others, to subsidize the costs. Additionally, the bleachers at the field are outdated and do not meet current code. To remove and replace the existing bleachers on each sideline, providing handicap access and meeting current code, the present estimate is $1,700,000. As has been past practice, the Board of Ed will seek any grants available to minimize the expenses to the town.
So again, Sam, just to clarify, these are the current needs for the district that are either too large for a CIP or would not be considered.
Right.
And there were also a couple of needs which were not considered because they were not large enough. We proposed putting in additional AED machines. We were told that that
Right, yeah. that-
doesn't rise to the level of a CIP. So we have things that fall on both sides of that.
Yes.
Right. Now, I noticed on this capital project, this was before we intended to go on and add Northeast Academy HVAC and CK HVAC for this upcoming year. So we're going to be submitting that to the town manager, is that correct?
Fitch High School and Charles Barnum, yes, that's part of this packet right here.
So does it have Northeast Academy and Catherine Kolnowski HVAC system?
Right now, I have Northeast Academy. I'm going to add Kolnaski to that
Okay.
list.
All right, so
again-
you'll be seeing the 275 there for FY 2025, and then we'll
we're
have
probably gonna
another
have to-
line.
I'm probably going to have to talk to the engineering firm again to get a more up-to-date
Okay.
cost on that.
Again, those have been submitted before, not approved.
Right,
But to be consistent with our message that the current system is not efficient,
That's correct.
we will continue to keep it on
Right.
the request list.
I believe it's since 2019 we've been submitting that.
Okay, all right. I'll recognize Ian and then Jen.
Yeah, sorry for the bother. I had to step out of the room for a minute. The CIPs are on which page?
It's at the beginning of your book, before the yellow tab.
Before the yellow tab.
If you go before the yellow tab, this is sort of the pre-pagination. There are
Okay.
a number of classroom photos, and it's just before that and after all the pie charts.
And that
Okay.
page that has the budget early observations with the yellow arrows going up and the green one going down, it's just a couple pages before that, Ian. It might be easier to go backwards.
Got it.
And it looks like
All right.
this. No, that probably
Thank you.
doesn't help.
Can I just ask a really quick question? How many zeros are we supposed to add on to the end of all these numbers?
3.
It's right.
Yeah, three.
All right. Well, I just thought, yeah.
Three zeros, right?
Good clarification.
All right. And then Jen?
Yeah, the
And
number
then
didn't look too bad till we added
Beverly.
those numbers.
It looks like. Yeah.
Just a question, like you said, you've been putting this on proposal since 2019. What is the feedback that you receive, and is there any glimmer of hope that they will say yes one day, like in conversations that you've had?
There are 3 or 4 different levels where this stuff can get bumped off our list.
Okay,
When I get called, first I go to the planning commission. Actually, I guess it goes to the town manager first, and the town manager could bump it off the list. And then I go to the planning commission.
okay,
The planning commission can move them on forward, or they could bump them. Then it goes to town council and RTM. So any of those could remove them from the list.
okay.
Generally speaking, the reasoning that I've heard over the years has been they're trying to stick to a number of what's reasonable for the taxpayer to be paying during that time frame. So
Okay, thank you.
Next, recognize Beverly. Beverly.
I should have lowered my hand because Jen just asked my question.
No.
Oh, okay.
So thank you.
Good job, Jen.
All right, thank you. Yes.
The figures, the estimated figures we had of 15.45 and 1.7 million, how old are those numbers?
the study was just done, 2 years ago, I think, so
What would you think, 15, 20% more, or am I
probably
underestimating?
it could be.
Okay.
But those won't really be considered for CIPs. That would be for,
Understood.
that would be for bonding, and that would be a
Yep.
whole different conversation we'd be having. But we want to just keep it out there.
We also have the auditorium project. Do you want to speak to that,
That's
Sam?
the last item
Yeah,
that
okay,
Clint and I will talk about.
okay, good. All right.
Okay, so I'll move on to the Fitch High School athletic facilities.
Sam, can I ask one more question about the HVAC systems? Which one do we desperately need out of all 1, 2, 3, 4 of them? Which one is in desperate need?
You're looking at the list that's on the blue and gray page?
Yeah, the HVAC specifically,
Yes,
You mean
Yeah,
between
the
Northeast
HVAC
Academy and
systems.
Fitch High School and Charles Barnum?
and CK.
yes, and CK.
Well, I guess if you had to prioritize them, thanks a lot.
No pressure,
I would
Sam.
say that the Fitch Vintage area and Charles Barnum would be the higher priority because we are mitigating the problem at Northeast and CK at this time. But
But those other two would have to
That's
be
just my
bonded, so it'd be
opinion.
good to get them all done.
And so I'll move on to the Fitch High School athletic facilities.
May I ask one quick question? So are we, so the increased use in electricity, are we still working on that? figure out how much we're spending on that?
Yes, I thought I'd have it for you tonight, but somebody sent me the attachment, but I think somebody sent me the wrong attachment, so
All right.
I should have it tomorrow. It's done, but I haven't seen it yet, and I thought the attachment was coming, but somebody hit the wrong button, I think. So,
And we do go after.
I do know, I'm sorry.
Well, we do go after all the HVAC grants. And in talking to our legislators, they said, please, on the next time we go around, and I think there's one ready for submission. So we have not received any of these HVAC grants. But the legislators will write a letter and, will support us in that endeavor. So we will definitely, in this next go-round, make sure that we've got letters from our legislators. So that was good information for us.
Okay, back to the Fitch High School athletic facilities. And what we're talking about here is the Fitch High School football field, which needs to be recrowned. And this has been put off for the last few years because the field study task force has been looking at the field and trying to determine whether they would do an artificial field, whether they would turn that field 90 degrees, or whether we would continue to use it as it is and just upgrade it. But we're going to continue to leave this in, and this would be to regrade it, resod it, and with an additional, again, $30,000, which is probably a little bit more since this estimate went out, for an irrigation system if we're going to do a grass field. So that would be $320,000. The Northeast Academy air quality, we've already explained to you previously that there are 10 HVAC units on top of Northeast Academy, and there are just about the same, I think it might be 8 at Kolnaski. So I'll double check on that number before I submit that to the town. But those air handling units were what were available at the time. And they do not provide dehumidification of the air as it goes through. And so new units would actually do that. So with active dehumidification, we actually have to run the boilers at the same time we're running the AC to dry the air so that it comes back at a decent humidity level. And so the last estimate we had on those units was $275,000, but I need to talk to the engineer about that again to be sure that our numbers are still good before I resubmit this week.
Jay, does this mean we would be buying, there are 10 units and we're budgeting over 4 years?
It's, actually, it goes into a 5th year, but it doesn't show on this chart.
Okay, so it goes into 5 years. Does that mean we're going to buy 2 a year, or does it mean?
Yeah, that was the recommendation from Fuss and O'Neill. However, I think when we submit this, I'll submit it that way. But there should be a conversation, I believe, between us and the town to determine whether, again, do we want to do this piecemeal, 2 per year, so that in 5 years it's done? And then Kolnaski is done after that? Or should we talk about the potential of bonding and doing the whole project in one summer and having both schools up to par
With the others.
at the same time?
Right.
So,
Either that or do 5 years of partial active dehumidification. I'll recognize Ian.
Thank you. So I think all these, we had a conversation a few weeks ago that involved the reimbursements coming from the town that came from special ed and some various other
Like impact
funds.
aid,
Yes, the impact aid. That's
impact
the
aid,
phrase I was
special
looking for.
education, excess cost.
Yes.
Yep.
Now, I think as we go to the town, we should definitely make a note to try to, frame our asks with that as a backdrop, because there has been money going back into the town budget that has not necessarily been reallocated to us. And in a perfect world, there would have been some kind of fund where those monies could have gone into, where we could have stockpiled and been able to manage and plan for these CIPs over time. So I would just encourage us to kind of, think about approaching it that way, whatever might be the most diplomatic way to take. But, that'll tie into some other conversation from another meeting as far as the non-lapsing fund goes. But, I think this is, I would definitely, I'm also interested in the information about the electricity, because that also would be vital to present to the town as we make this argument to resubmit the CIP, that, there is an ongoing spiraling cost here, and electricity doesn't get much cheaper either year after year. So there's sort of an exponential effect. So there should be some cost-benefit analysis maybe run on that. Make the investment now, correct the problem, or this is what it has cost us, and this is what it will cost us moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, no other questions on that? On to the Fitch High HVAC upgrades. We had a firm in and did a study on both Fitch High School and Charles Barnum schools. In the Vintage area of Fitch High School, there is no central air in that area. There are a couple of rooms that we have put mini splits in. But this would be to upgrade that area of the building, and that is for $5,054,000. So again, Mr. Burrett indicated that this is beyond a CIP project, but we have it listed there anyways, just to continue to keep it in front of the town council. And then the Charles Barnum project, which is on the next page, excuse me. That school was built in the 1960s, and we get fresh air in that building by opening and closing windows and doors. So this would be, again, to replace some of the mini splits there and have a centrally located system in that building as well. That would cost $2,318,000. If you, I'll try and go slow enough so if somebody wants a question about any of these as we go along, rather than going through all of them, so I wasn't looking up there.
I have
Jen?
a question. So we get funding from the government that is significant for our military students. And I think the number was 80% of the military students attend Charles Barnum. I think we really seriously need to check to see like how we allocate that Department of Defense fund to see if we can at least make sure that the kids who are receiving the funding actually get the services, because we have some very new schools and our military children are not getting the benefit, or maybe they are getting the benefit, but they don't get the benefit of like the air conditioning. When the presentations were made regarding the magnet, I didn't think the magnet program was as strong as Charles Barnum. So I just want us, as a Board of Ed, to make sure that those kids who we have responsibility for like 2 to 4 year timeframe as they move on to other parts of the country, that we are doing the best we can for them. And that's nothing for you. I just wanted to make sure, because like as we're prioritizing things, we should keep that into consideration. And that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I don't want you to think that they don't have any air conditioning. Most of the classrooms have either a window unit or a mini split. So they do get cooler air, but
Yeah, like opening.
not as efficient or,
Yeah, like opening windows, for me, that's like a safety thing nowadays with the environment we live in, right? Like, people can climb in the window. I don't know, I've never been, so I'm scheduled to go visit. I don't know how high these windows are off the ground.
Okay, next I'll recognize Ian.
Thank you. I just wanted to echo Jen's sentiments there and express support as far as trying to make sure that we prioritize Charles Barnum as much as we can, especially in lieu of how much DoD funding we get and how much military, how many military children we service. Thank you.
Do you have a question,
And I will,
Adrian?
yes, I do. I'll first just say that I agree as well that, we do get a lot of military funding and we need to take care of those kids. But my question was, are we monitoring air quality? So as far as like air changes per hour and that type of thing, do we have somebody go into Charles Barnum? I mean, is the air clean there, or does it get stale?
we have a
or-
technician that does that on a daily basis, yes.
All right.
And does that happen across all the schools, Sam?
Yes, yep. Yeah, he monitors those on a daily basis.
And I'll recognize Beverly.
Okay. Sam, you did say if you had to prioritize that Fitch High School and Charles Barton would be on the top of your list, right?
As the older buildings, yes.
Okay. Susan, can you use that Department of Defense money for something like HVAC systems? Or do you have to use them for educational purposes only? What
So
can you
the-
use that federal money for?
So the impact aid money that comes in the tune of $4 to $5 million goes right to the town to support our operating budget. The DOD supplement, which could be at risk in Washington right now, they're voting on that as we speak, and could be at risk in Groton, because I'm looking for 35 more children, so I've sent out paper forms now for every secretary to find every kid that we can possibly find, so that if we have the opportunity to continue down the road of DOD, we can replenish that. That account has always been used for technology. That was just the decision of the board back in the day, and we've kind of held true to it. We've offered a couple other suggestions for this year as we're trying to manage this year's budget. But, so the long answer, I guess, Beverly, to that is that it's not a whole lot of money for HVAC. It's not millions of dollars in that DOD supplemental account. There are millions of dollars that have come in the name of impact aid that have been put right to our operating, and some, and another probably $5 million over time that has come to the town, to their general account. So that being said, perhaps those overages could pay for HVAC. And it goes back to Ian's point about, could that be a potential for CIP funding? And I don't know the answer to that.
Thank you, Susan.
Matthew?
So I'm listening to Ian, and I listened to Jen, and I had two questions. How long has it been since we've had an open house for town council and RTM members so they can actually lay their eyes on, their eyeballs on, see, smell, touch, feel, hear the various situations that we have, give them some context for their deliberations? That's the first question. And the second question, I think we're doing it, but am I correct in presuming that we are going to have a really clear and articulated list of money that flows directly to town that was sent to the town nominally to support the school system, but which ended up in the general budget?
That is in the budget book. Those numbers are in the budget book, that chart and graph, and it will be presented, when we do the public hearing and when we have our liaison meeting, so that will come to the attention.
Yeah, I know we have a list. I thought I heard something new tonight when we were going over the list, that we've really identified every possible source. Okay, good, thank you.
Yeah, well, it was a very good question, and to answer that, when we had the Groton 2020, we did invite all of the visitors to see our new schools and to look at them. And I know our board has taken a walk down the Vintage Wing, but I would love to bring others down the Vintage Wing of Fitch, and even Charles Barnum. Congressman Courtney has actually visited, because he's kind of adopted our little Charles Barnum as our military school, and it was our first blue ribbon, so.
It is the context of personal visualization that
I
I
agree.
think could be very helpful
It
to
was-
the children.
Yep, I wrote it down. It's a good idea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and then I'll move on to the culinary arts at Fitch High School. And this is the culinary arts rooms in the Vintage Wing of Fitch High School, which are outdated. They are reminiscent of home economics rooms in the 1960s. I think we have some Harvest Gold in there, and probably some avocado
I love that
units as
avocado.
well.
But we do have some new equipment, thanks to one of the Perkins grant and to your team for getting in the new sinks, so.
We put in both new three-bay sinks that they wanted up there, and we also installed some new oven stoves, as the other ones weren't working. They got through Perkins grant as well, so, but those items will be, should we do this project, they can be taken out and then again used. They'd be planned, they're on the list for the architect to use again.
Yep.
If this project moves forward. So, again, this is a career pathway, and we're looking to keep that, to make that program, keep it up to capacity, full capacity. There are lots of kids that are left out of that, and this would be a more friendly space, and the hope would be that they could actually get more kids in for these programs. So that estimated is at $600,000. And again, that study was done by SLAM, S-L-A-M, which was the architect on Groton Middle School. And they did that study for us, and Susan paid for that.
Not personally.
So generous.
Back in the day when we had money.
Question? Sure. So I know it's a career pathways and you want to increase it to full capacity. Is it something that we really should focus in on, or do we know that like Grasso Tech has a really strong culinary arts program and we encourage kids who are interested in culinary arts to go to Grasso Tech? It's just a question, like.
It's a question that's come up.
Yeah, strategically, do we, if somebody's interested in that, like, sort of like encourage them to go to Grasso Tech? And we don't really offer culinary arts. Like, I'm trying to figure out what's our core competency, right? And is making an investment of $600,000 in culinary arts the way to go? It's just a thought for the group.
So I can answer that very simply, that Grasso Tech is not a very large high school. And while it has most of our Groton students, just like marine science, it is another small high school, it couldn't possibly reach all the kids that really want to have that as a career pathway. And it might be a career pathway for short-term or long-term in their career. We certainly are a city, town that hosts so much of the restaurant business. And we've just seen by the numbers of students who sign up for culinary arts, and it's not just Cooking 101 or Bisquick. It's really much more than that, and there's even the service of folks. In the past, they've even done lunch and served for the MLK Scholars and other events around town. So I would say, Jen, that it's not feasible to think that all the kids who really want to have that as a potential in their career someday, for short-term or long-term, would ever be able to get into Grasso, all of those students. And some want to be at Fitch and also want a career pathway, and that's a valuable career pathway. So it's a really good question, because a lot of people have asked that and said, just send them to Grasso, but we can only send so many. And it might not be the best, situation for a lot of our students who also want this. So we're kind of keeping our options open with that.
Next, I'll recognize Ian, and then Matthew, and then Rob, and then Dean.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm in full support of the CIP. One of the things I heard on the doors a lot in the community was how, college and career readiness is something we really need to invest in. And one of the points of conversation we had out there, I had with a lot of people, was how, kids at age 14 coming into freshman year are not always ready to make the commitment to go into a trade school or, some other very targeted high school. Some are, and that's great. But I think, as a general ed high school, it's incumbent upon us to provide a broad swath of opportunity. And not only is the culinary arts important for career pathway, but I also think it's home economics. It's just, that's how a person functions. It's great to have that supplemental, because, as parents, it'd be great to think that we have all the time in the world to teach our kids how to cook, and we all do what we can, but, they could always, pick up other pointers from other people. So I think it's a great program, and I would highly encourage us to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Matthew?
So I'd like to make a referral to the COW. I think the question of examining our core competencies is worth some discussion as we look ahead, not 2 years or 3 years, but try to look ahead 10 or 15 or 20 years. This is not for this budget cycle, and so I'll be very, very brief. We're clearly working towards the industrial sector, like EB and Thayer Moran. That, I think, is a core competency that this institution can continue and emphasize. So I said I'd keep it brief. What are the other ones that we want to look at and have a long-term view? And we'll get there slowly, but at least have a long-term view. So if I could make that referral.
There was a little piece in your board notes, too, about the pathways.
I
And so
apologize.
that's definitely a good topic for the COWs.
Career pathways, I was trying to avoid being long, but clearly it's a wonderful contribution to this process.
I think it's necessary. I couldn't agree with all of you more, that it's also about their careers and what they have to do to get there. And college may or may not be definitely needed or desired.
I think it was Rob, and then Dean?
Yep. So with the desire to have the classes filled to capacity, what is the capacity of those classrooms?
16,
16?
not the 20 to 24. With the new structure, we could get about 24 in the classrooms, and then there would be a middle space, too, that would be an overflow space that could be used for storage and also some other workings. So it would just be, I think it's the redesign of it that would make it more efficient and could service more kids.
Okay. Just something to keep in mind, how many kids can go through and what the life cycle of some of the equipment that they're going to have is. So just something to keep in mind with how much we're spending versus how many children are actually getting what they're wanting out of it.
We did change the Foods 1 course to a semester, so we could get more kids into Foods 1 who might be excited, and that's worked out really fabulously. But this would even amplify that process, too, for more kids. Yeah.
Thank you.
Dean?
Yeah. I think in fairness, Sam, when you talk about the 60s and the color scheme, I think I think you can scale that. I mean, as late as the mid-70s, I think that color scheme was in. Yeah. So let's be just so we're on the so we're straight on that one. Not the 60s, it's the 70s. So right now, there's a capacity of 16 students, right? You just said
Times
that?
2 classrooms.
Times 2 classrooms, so that's 32 kids. So if we spend the extra $600,000, it's what times 2? How many more kids would we get in there?
Well, it's more like 25 times 2. So more like 50 kids.
Okay, so 16 to 25. So an extra 9 kids, an extra 18 kids. So $600,000 for an extra 18 kids annually. Is that what it comes down to?
No, because it's by semester, so, and it's also by, periods.
Well, that's
So
what I
there
want to
would
know.
be 8
How-
periods
How many
times 8
kids in a
periods.
year go through there? How many more kids in a year will go through there? We'll use a year as a,
We could
as
do
a-
that
as a
for you. We
metric.
could figure that out, to give you a
just
number.
curious.
I think we
Yeah.
also have the statistics of how many kids we've turned away.
Right,
And so that'll be, if we have to remember to include those when we talk about the numbers.
yeah. we can-
Right, but you've fixed it by spending the extra $600,000 will increase capacity to a definite point.
Yeah.
You'll still be turning kids away.
Yep.
All I want to know is where are we now and where will we be if we spend the $600,000 in terms of how many more kids we get in there? That's all.
And I think it's the excellence in the programming, too. It's the efficiencies, it's the more students involved, but it's also really making it a viable program for kids who actually end up, serving in a restaurant or serving, in a food service operation so that they're more ready when they have their career. So, a lift from the home ec days.
And the 600,000 isn't just to accommodate those additional kids, but it's also to upgrade the equipment in that space, so.
Right, no, understood.
Yeah.
Next, I'll recognize Beverly.
Susan, can they get any type of certification for being in the culinary arts program?
There are
No.
certifications that students can receive. The people that we have in place that are instructing were actually in the restaurant business and went through a teaching certification program as well. So they would be the ones that I can find out more about the different certifications. But that's really a big piece of the career pathways is to get those certifications, whether it's in the nursing program, the EMT program, even signing on to electric boat before they graduate is a possibility for our kids. So many different opportunities. That's a great question, Beth. But I will find out for sure what is the type of certification that they could receive.
And I just want to say, I am in agreement with Ian and his comments. I read an article in the paper, I think it was the New York Times, I'll send it to the board members, how now employers they're not always interested in education, they're interested in life experiences other than education. I'll try to scan it and send it to the board members. It was very interesting. So a lot of people are moving away from, you have to have a college education to get a job as I don't know what.
Right.
But you get the idea, so.
All right, thank you, Bev. And Ian, did you have a question?
Yeah, just to answer one question. One of the certifications culinary arts could provide is a ServSafe.
Yes.
ServSafe is one, that's just a basic level entry to professional food handling. There is a culinary arts program at my facility. I could talk to the instructor there and get more information too about what he does beyond that. I know ServSafe for sure is one that is sort of like a required entry for students to get into his program.
Absolutely, you're right.
Thank you.
Adrian?
I'll just make a quick, brief statement in support of it. My daughter just visited the school last week, and she does not plan on going to culinary arts, but she was very excited about that program and having the opportunity to take that. And I think culinary arts is something that probably a lot of kids see as fun and enjoyable and might help keep them coming to school. So we should kind of not forget about that side of it, just as like we need to have, kids have to make it through really hard math classes and science classes that they may not be interested in, but I think that the culinary arts, I think most kids actually are there having fun and enjoying school the whole time they're there.
We'll have to plan a Vintage Wing Fitch High School walkthrough with some of our board members to come and see, because you're right. It's almost like a relaxing environment, but they all are working in teams and they're getting the job done, but they celebrate at the end when they eat their cupcakes or when they eat whatever.
Yeah.
And there is this kind of community feel when you walk into that classroom. You're exactly right.
We're all set. I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Kennedy for the auditorium project.
Oh, okay.
So the last F on the list is the Fitch High School auditorium. The request is for $141,000. There's really 4 parts to this. Most of you, if not all of you, have been in the Fitch Auditorium. It's modeled after a Broadway-sized stage. I don't know the exact seating capacity in there off the top of my head, but it fits quite a large number of people. As we review that space, get feedback from the community and so forth, basically 4 things came up: lighting, sound, digital projection, and the seating. Seating is not my area of expertise, but now that I've been here for over 2 years, really understanding how that facility has been kept up and running, the team has been very creative in finding solutions. The old sound system that we're going to be using in here is sitting in the pit as we speak to do that. And nothing is more disappointing than students spending a semester working hard to prepare and wanting to perform in front of a large audience, and through no fault of their own, there is some issue, a technical issue and so forth. I take it personally. So this request covers all 4 of those components. The digital projection component of it is, right now, we have a standard projector that is loosely mounted in the pit with a scrolling screen down. This would allow us to ceiling mount a projector and have an expanded screen to fill more of that space to do that. It would also modernize some of the controls and additional lighting on that stage that are more energy efficient and fill many of the holes that we have now. There have been a few occasions where you see the entire stage filled with students and teachers and so forth, and not everyone is lit equally, and you're probably privy to a few of the sound difficulties we've had for the past couple of years that we're working hard, much like in Board of Ed meetings, to remedy, because we've heard and we would like to fix that. So that is in its entirety, the upgrade, if you will, of the auditorium to resolve those issues.
What about the seating?
Sam, do you mind commenting on that?
Well,
The
the seating
seating,
is
some work
included
and some
in,
don't.
the seating is included in,
Right?
It's a crapshoot, yeah.
Seating's all-
I'm sorry.
When you sit down.
the auditorium holds about just under 1,000 people, but some of the seating is, one of the problems that we have had over the last couple of years is that there is no place for motorized wheelchairs, those things in the building, and so the fire marshal was not very happy with us last year when we had those in aisles and other places. He's recommending that we actually remove some seats down in front and get those persons with wheelchairs and the motorized wheelchairs down into the front so that the people that are able to can get out more quickly, and those would follow through up the aisle. So, and some of the seating has been broken over the years, just from use. So
Some
Wear
looks
and
like
tear.
it's been replaced in different sections, so we have different vintages of seating.
I'm not positive. I didn't see. I tried to find that project in the files, but I wasn't able to find that project. It was done
Before us.
in the 70s, I believe.
But not in Harvest Gold.
No.
No,
Or avocado.
Fitch red.
I think it's Cape Cod Red, I think. But
No, Fitch red.
Jen?
Question. Since the community utilizes the auditorium, is there an opportunity for this to get funded by the town?
Yeah, this will be a request for what's called a capital improvement project. It will go before the town council and the RTM.
But under the town's requests, not ours. I don't know if that's like, if there's like a separate distinction, like if the town council does one.
There's one group of CIPs, and we're part of that
Yeah.
larger universe.
Okay, I wasn't sure if like town council could submit their own and then we submit our own and then like we just stick this in the town council side.
Just one more department, with
Okay.
Parks and Rec and Public Works and the police and.
But I love the idea of an open house and having that group come in and see. I think that would really put their eyes on this situation, and they could, help support us in that as a community endeavor.
And they have an opportunity this Friday at 6:30 to attend a concert at Fitch High School. So I would invite all the town leaders to go to the concert.
I'll make sure I send that out to everybody.
Yes, maybe we could send that to the town council and RTM and everything.
And we will test the sound prior.
Well,
Or don't.
Or maybe,
Ian?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm in full support of the idea of inviting all the town council and RTM to the next concert. Yeah, I have been to a number of concerts. My child is in a number of the concert bands and jazz bands over the years. Yeah, so I'm in full support of the CIP, and, you know, Mr. Kennedy went over the list. It's pretty comprehensive of a number of the deficiencies that have developed over time. You know, again, it's just like, you know, things degrade, they get used. You know, I think it's important to remember that nothing is static. You know, as soon as we make the investment, these are expendable things. The best we can do is, you know, extend the duration for which we get to use them. So I just ran the numbers here. Actually, I just added up all these CIPs here, and it looks like about 9.5 million total altogether. Is that?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, and that meeting I referred to where we talked about the impact aid and the special ed reimbursements and the various other things that came back to the town, that was around about 10 million. Is that
Well
correct?
over. I think 10 and a
Yeah.
half. You're very good.
So, again, I think there's our case right there to make to the town. And I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Matthew?
There are certain times of the year when the Fitch Auditorium is jam-packed and there's no room to do anything else. But I wondered if there are times of the year, I've been there in the summer where we've had a summer class in photography or something, that will use the theater for a couple of hours. But is there any opportunity to make our case that not only does this benefit our students, but if we have an upgraded system, then community dance, community music, community theater could use our facilities as well? Do you remember when there was a
I think
ill-fated...
Jen was
Yeah, there was an
alluding to
ill-fated
that.
proposal to have a theater up in West Mystic, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
And there was a group of people who came out and said they would like to use those buildings for performing arts, so...
Yep.
Well, this board has a policy where we do use our buildings that way, and people pay to use our buildings. And then that goes into the general fund as well. So we do have dance and a lot of other people who use our facility just for that reason.
Let's include that in our marketing with the town.
Yes, Jen?
one more. It's not on the list, and I don't know if you want it to be on the list. When I went on the tour with you, Susan, you had mentioned you wanted to look at the library or the media center. Is that worthy of this, or?
Well, yeah,
Next
there's
time.
a pit that really doesn't have access for all students, so Sam and I have talked about putting a lift in there because we've used it and the kids love it, like as a round, they love to get in it and they can have presentations, but if it's not accessible to all of our students and a student in a wheelchair, then we really have it roped off. So we're looking at even easy ways to upgrade. But that whole wing, the manufacturing, so I'd love to take people for a tour just to see what the potential could be there. And I'm not saying build a whole new building, but I think there could be upgrades done to make it, you know, more relevant and so.
All right, thank
If I
you.
could just add one.
Yep.
I appreciate the fact that Jen mentioned that these rooms are used, and Matthew points out that there's a possibility of maybe renting out space. We do that presently with lots of dance teams and so on and so forth. But whether you're talking about custodial maintenance at the high school through the regular budget or this particular CIP project, Fitch High School is a community center outside of school hours. There are activities going in that building year-round, day and night. So
And weekends.
that's correct.
It's nonstop. And holidays, I know.
Which also speaks to Ian's point about the wear and tear on the facility and so forth.
With all color decor,
I'm sorry, what?
all color decor.
No. All right, thank you, Sam. We look forward to hearing that study on the actual cost of the active dehumidification. Dr. Kennedy.
I'm moving from the 70s to the 20s. We're doing here. All right, so I just to get everybody situated, I am going to be talking about page 5-95 and 5-96.
Do you want to get on camera?
We're both on camera, so feel free to stay. So really what I do is all things IT. It's labeled as computer support services, but I'm sure most of you are aware, there are very few things in a public school system these days that don't touch IT or are related in some manner or form. On a daily basis, we're managing about 6,000 users, give or take. That's between students and staff and outside support and so forth. And there's probably 50% more than that as far as the number of devices that are connected to our network at any one time. Rarely does a person enter our buildings that doesn't have at least 2 devices on them, if not more. So just to kind of to situate you a little bit. As far as staffing goes, you'll see on 5-95, there really is only a small change, which was an actual change during this course of the year. The administrative assistant for the IT department went from 1.0 to 0.5. You do see an additional 2.0 in the proposed for the sys admin. That is a function move. It is not a new staff member. That person has been on this team since I've been here, just so staffing-wise. And if I may, just make one comment. So I've been working in this industry 25 years. This is the 4th school district that I've had the privilege of leading a team of IT professionals. I couldn't be happier with the team that I get to work with every day. They say I don't know, and I'm going to find out when they don't know, which I really value. They're collaborative, they're creative, they understand the limitations we're facing, they also understand the seriousness with which they show up to work every day to serve teachers and students. So I just thank you for letting me brag a little bit, but I am really excited. It's a wonderful team. So one of the things that I'd like to mention before we go through this, you should have all received an email from the superintendent today. I am going to be brief on this topic, and I'll explain why. But on Thursday morning of last week, Groton Public Schools did suffer a cyber attack on the district network. About 6:30 in the morning, I was alerted that one school did not have internet access, and I thought that was unusual because we have a monitoring system on internet access coming into the district as well as all the individual schools and so forth. So I immediately first calls to our network manager, and we started to dissect what was going on. Ultimately, we figured out about 20 minutes later, 25 minutes later, that we were the victims of an attack. We immediately jumped into what eventually got us back up and running in a very quick, short order in relative terms to some of the attacks you may have read about over the last 6 months, Hartford, East Lyme, Stonington, and what have you. We had a disaster recovery plan in place, and it worked. Did it work 100%? No, because we were only about 95% up 6.5 hours later. But we were up, and we threw that plan into place, and it worked. So that's the good news. As far as what's happening right now, I'm working with Groton PD. I'm working with the Department of Homeland Security. I'm working with our technology vendor, and I'm also working with 2 groups through our cybersecurity insurance. One is specifically for a forensics work around this event. And another is legal counsel guiding us as to roles, responsibilities, and so forth for a public school system in this type of event. Now, I would like to share more details, but I'm not. I hope you forgive me. I'll use the analogy, much like we don't often sit at a public meeting and talk about the exact map of where every single security camera is. I've been counseled by every one of those groups, and I agree with them, that sharing any more details could potentially open us up to provide
more information for a bad actor to use that against us. So I'm going to leave it there. Systems are up and running, and I'm working very diligently as best I can to make sure that we are working with the appropriate authorities and moving forward, and I will certainly keep you all abreast through the superintendent as I have more. So thank you for understanding. Okay, tech budget. So I'm going to move from the staffing to the overall budget. Big picture, as you look at this page, this is 5-96. What jumps out immediately, and I would assume would be your first question, would be there's 3 lines. There's the sysadmin 129, which I already addressed, which is really a functional move. 2 more functional moves. The second one being 530, which is phones. That was previously not part of my overall budget, even though we manage them. As many of you are most likely aware, we implemented a VoIP phone system. It was contractually signed but not implemented when I first started. So that has been fully implemented and up and running and is now part of that phone line. That's why you're seeing a large increase in there. That line includes every cellular device, every phone, and the management systems around that, and all the fees and so forth associated with that. The third one I want to highlight is obviously the biggie, which is 612, computer software. This, as Superintendent Austin mentioned prior, was typically in one of the DoD line items, so it was not technically part of my budget line item within the IT department. We do not know, as the superintendent said, where that is headed as far as legislation goes and so forth. It is now nested within the IT department's budget here. So I wanted to kind of call those out because those are obviously large deltas in where those are, and that tells a story of why a percentage change overall may not tell the true story. As far as the other line items go, big picture, I tried to be very efficient in what I've learned over the last 2 years and what is most important as we continue this change within Groton Public. This march to a full one-to-one school district. We are fully one-to-one in grades 6 through 12, so every student has a Chromebook, a modern Chromebook that we spend a lot of time and energy and effort in making sure is on the road, fully functioning and working, especially when the students tell us after an oopsie or something happens, and we sometimes have to, they're concerned they'll be in trouble and so forth. We often message, you can't use it to get your work done if it's broken, so we need to know about it so we can help you get back to good. In the elementary levels, during COVID, we were actually in a 2-to-1 environment where there was a device for every student in their classroom and one at home. That was unsustainable to continue to do that in a post-COVID world. But we are now approximately 1.5 to 1.7 to 1 as those devices filter out. Some of those came back in, and there are additional devices in the classroom and so forth. So we are a fully one-to-one school district, and we spend a lot of time maintaining that, with the caveat, only the 6th through 12th graders actually take those Chromebooks home.
Can I add this piece?
Please.
Because I think that you've been very responsive, as has your team. If any child is saying that they can't access Dreambox or something to do their homework because they don't have a device at home, Clint and his team have actualized and gotten them, it might have been an older model of a Chromebook, it might need even a hotspot, but we do have hotspots still out there after COVID, so that access and equity is really important. So if that request comes through, we do follow up with that.
We've really worked to take advantage of some of the federal programs and others. And for those of you who may or may not know, a hotspot is really, it looks like a stack of 5 credit cards. And when you turn it on at home, it connects to the cellular, close to cell tower, and it provides Wi-Fi in a home. I'm getting, at least 2 to 3 of those requests a month for students who may have challenge at home with internet access or displaced or whatever the case may be. So yeah, we have programs set up so we do not want any student to not be able to complete work, seek out what they're interested in seeking out as part of their overall program at home. So it's an equity issue, and we want to make sure we address that. As far as the other line items go, I'm certainly happy to answer any questions if there's any specific questions on one of those line items. My last comment about some of these function moves, we have the ability to dive deep into usage numbers based on traffic on the network to see who's doing what with certain programs from a teacher perspective, from a student perspective.
And we've just finished kind of another round of those usage reports that we're going to be reviewing soon in a challenging environmental, budget environment. I'm assuming we're going to have some additional talks and discussions about that as we align software and services to that. And just so as an FYI, this line, this computer software is administrative, so Google accounts, Microsoft accounts, tech accounts that I use to help manage the district. Those are curriculum and instruction across the board, and they also include special education software and services that are digital that we show. Those are really the three main big buckets for that. So I cut and trimmed where I deemed appropriate and not putting us at risk. Typically, often I get the question, well, what is missing from here? What do you need more of, or what have you? It's probably not a surprise after the events of last week. I will continue to advocate for security measures. That is critical to obviously what I do and what we all do. We're talking about students and young people. That being said, we live in a finite world, and yes, I could secure this district even more so with an infinite amount of funds. That's not reasonable, but I have to constantly advocate and push for that, understanding there are many needs of our students and teachers in Groton Public Schools. So that's, I will do my best. I promise I will do my best and reflect on that, which is that process we're going through right now, to make sure it's appropriate in the grand scheme of things. Questions?
Clint, where are you budgeting for the refresh of the Chromebooks every year?
So we just finished another round of 630 Chromebooks for grades 7 and 8.
Okay.
I have not added a line for next year because I'm confident with the break fix and the small amount of insurance dollars that are coming in and so forth, I can get us through next year. You will see that as a line item for next year.
For the following,
because
25,
yeah,
6.
For the 25-26 school year.
Okay.
It's tight. I think the latest number I was given is to date at the high school, we've repaired 187 Chromebooks, which is, 20% give or take of all Chromebooks. That was mid-year. And we're constantly advocating and helping students understand that this is a important piece of the puzzle. It should be treated as such. And we do have insurance for those. We do ask families to pay $20 for that insurance fee. Not everybody does pay that. We do have dollars available for financial need, and anyone who asks, we review that and so forth. So we're trying to be as understanding as possible, but these do have a lot of wear and tear. They're in and out of backpacks 5, 6, 7 times a day. They're at home. There's other family members that may not be aware that they're in a backpack or what have you. Please don't put your Chromebook down next to your bed. When you get up in the morning, you may step on it. Just lessons learned from stories with students over time.
Software is a big line item, obviously, in your department. In past years, we've done audits to see what are we actually using to make sure we are not paying for licenses for software that
Of course. Yeah.
maybe teachers who are no longer with us or have an interest in
Or
or
curriculum
using.
program changes.
Or curriculum. So have we done that audit?
So that is what I just finished, the latest round of that.
Okay.
We also have access to a tool called Learn Platform, which
Okay.
not only helps us understand the numbers and usage, but also connects with the state database. I have a responsibility to make sure that any title that comes in here that's used by students passes muster for student data privacy. That's been a big push in the state of Connecticut over the last 3 years. So that it does those two things.
And the other thing that you and Dr. Piazza also did was to do a survey to our teachers.
We did.
To see what are the most effective, efficient, kind of to have them prioritize. So between usage and that data back from the survey, they're going to review that with me. And, that's going to be part of our process. We need to go through this, once we've gone through it with you, and give you a sheet of, here's some areas that we can cut back. We're going to need to cut back. We know that. So, and we'll get your feedback on these things as well.
I do remember that a few years ago, we were paying for some premium software where we found out that the lower level versions
Would be
have
sufficient.
been sufficient. So,
Right.
yeah, I'm glad to hear that
Yep.
we're definitely.
We are absolutely looking at that. There is a tension
Yep.
in that sometimes because we have different opinions across the
Yep.
highly qualified educators that we have in Groton Public Schools and so forth. So, yeah, those are conversations we are having.
Okay. Jen?
This is a decrease. I just want to make sure. I know you said you looked at everything. Line item 343, where actuals are like almost 200,000, and then going down to 164, and then 99. I just want to make sure that we're
That
okay.
decrease is appropriate, yeah.
Yeah.
So, speaking of wonderful team members, we have a new network manager as of about a year ago, give or take. And it was a wonderful upgrade. And he has really, with me, kind of dove into what we're paying for the school district with 8 buildings plus Mary Morrison and our robotics team at PV and so forth. There's multiple closets with multiple pieces of equipment and so forth. And a lot of that is the support and service contracts on those individual hardware devices. So taking advantage of not covering end-of-life products that would be cheaper to replace than to actually pay support costs on and things like that is really what we did to lower that number.
Okay, great.
Sure.
Thank you.
Rob?
Mine's not so much a question, but more of a statement. The fact that you, 3 admins and 5 technicians, with what you've described, accomplish all of that you do and not working 36 hours in a day, I just want to applaud you for the hard work and the amazing job that you guys do.
Thank you.
I am very lucky for the team that we've been able to put together here.
36 hours, though, maybe in the past 64 hours, they probably had been on it. We were here on Saturday.
There's 2 periods. We talked about this earlier.
I know.
I did wear sweats on Saturday when I was
Yeah.
in here working on,
And I was signing for it.
It's forgivable.
And I'll recognize Ian and then Bev.
Thank you. Just a quick check on 612, the computer software. I think you might have kind of touched on this already, but the increase of 548,957. Could you just elaborate on that a little bit?
so it's not a increase per se, it's a function move. That was when I came in and was working with the previous director of finance, that was aligned in the budget as a DoD line item as opposed to a software line item under the IT budget. So there is a small increase in there, but it is not that full 548,000. It's because it was moved.
And Congressman Courtney
Okay.
advised us that in Washington currently, the proposal was to cut the DoD supplemental altogether out of the operating budget. So we have to prepare that this may not,
Even if
we're
we-
assuming it won't be there, but we also are a few students short on
35.
qualifying for it as well.
And I think this paints a better picture and it's
side-
aligned better as to being able to understand and review this.
Just a side note to that, because it was mentioned a couple times tonight about the DoD grants and getting cut from the DC budget. Would it be something we might want to consider for a referral to the Cal, perhaps, that we act as a board to issue a letter to Congressman Courtney that, to demonstrate some need and support for that funding to continue?
I would support that.
yeah,
But
I'll
our problem also, though, that concurrently is that you have to have a certain number of military-connected students to even qualify. And so we're on a razor's edge on that right now. So, but we can certainly do both.
It could also have to do with the Columbia class or a submarine that left port before the October 1 numbers this year, and we're not to receive the one that fits in the parking space until after the October 1 numbers. So having that year plus a month of not having those military connected, that could also be part of the reason that we're not finding them. But we're going to do our best effort to really try to locate every single person that we can.
We've been working with Miranda Chapman on making sure that that's where we're at. We're
Yeah.
getting close to where we need to be.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, she's right by our side. She and Jen DeBelle.
I think there,
Yeah.
isn't there also a question as to whether the DoD supplemental uses the October 1st date?
There was a question about being able to select the best date, so I asked Lauren Cassini, who's our student data manager, to look over time to see if there's a high peak And I know she was doing that study, so we haven't looked at that, but that reminds me to ask her again to take a look. Is there a higher peak than not?
Yeah, my understanding is that if it does survive the current budget, it doesn't necessarily use our state PSIS data about that.
Doesn't have to.
Right. So there's hope. Sorry, Bev.
That's okay. Clint, on line 530,
Yes?
can we expect not to have that increase next year?
It will be stable, if not somewhat decreased next year. Again, 530 was one of the function moves, and combined, that was part of the business department budget previously, now part of my budget.
Okay. And can you tell me, I didn't hear why there's an increase in your technicians?
Also a function move.
In the technicians or in the? Oh, sorry, yeah, under 129, yeah. That was another function move. The total head count for the IT department actually shrunk this year because the admin went 0.5. Everything actually was the same people, same bodies.
It just wasn't shown in this line.
Correct.
The other person.
It was in Art Besser.
Okay. So the technician was paid from our ESSA funds?
Correct.
And now
yeah.
it's in our budget?
Yeah, it's in the notes under the budget narrative, if you see that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And Clint, I know this isn't exactly your wheelhouse, but we can expect that Dave will be able to point to us a corresponding function code where telephone expenses went down.
I don't
Not
mean to
necessarily
speak- I don't
dollar
mean to
for
speak
dollar.
For Dave, but absolutely.
Yeah.
We were resourceful.
Just can't put
We
my
paid those
finger
bills
on it.
last year, and we pay them this year, and we will pay them next year for that VoIP system, yes.
Right, yeah, it just wasn't, it was through another function code
I'll make a note.
prior to the transfer to voice over IP.
And voice over IP is just voice, we're, instead of an old traditional phone system, we're running it over the same networks, if you will, that we have data and other things.
Beverly, do you have another question, or? Okay.
There was just one other page item that I think came under you was 579, and those are our video and assistant video technicians. Those are
Yes,
two
and
other
I would be
things that
remiss if I didn't shout them out as we speak. Mark
work day in
and
and day out.
Caitlin on the other side of that wall are critical to not only this experience and late nights, but they are constantly in schools working to capture and manage the AV footprint for us in Groton Public Schools, so.
And they showed me some new
Thank you, Mark and Kate.
technology that they have in their little room that they're thrilled with.
Yes.
It's going to make their job so much more efficient, so.
Yes, again, the same grant that we were able to, the competitive grant that we got to provide some of the mics that you see here is also, we're basically digitizing our workflow. More to come on that. I know it's getting late here, but I'm excited about where we're headed as far as that. And tonight is the second night that we have not published, but we've been testing streaming live on YouTube as well, and the early reports I got was, it sounds great. So we will, in the very near future, maybe even next week, we'll start advertising that as an option for the community to see, so they don't have to come in via Zoom.
Yes, the improvement in audio has been approved by Beverly
Oh,
Washington.
good,
so-
Beverly.
Although we can barely hear you, Bev.
We could-
Now we need to work on your mic.
Yeah.
I can't see.
And again, just to sort of add on to what Mark and Caitlin do, I mean, they're the folks who have recorded all of the school events, concerts over the years.
I'm going to do them
on
an
YouTube,
injustice
but-
if I try to list all the things that they do. But yes, it is all concerts, special events, speakers coming in, Board of Ed meetings, athletics, all 3 seasons, and so forth. And again, that's both video as well as stills, typically, so.
Yes, yeah, Mark is prolific in his still photography, and we owe them both a debt of gratitude for documenting the lives of our students. Thank you.
May I add something?
Please.
All of this happens because I had Mark in 8th grade.
That explains a lot, Mark.
She straightened him out.
So thank you. If you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer or follow up.
Any questions about that?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Kennedy. So that brings us to
Adjournment.
the end of this.
But we have more to go this week.
Right,
We have
we're all
finance
going to be here
facilities tomorrow.
tomorrow for finance and facilities.
And then we
Or
have,
online.
and we have a big day Wednesday with all other things operational and health. And so Lori Lapine will join us too for the health piece.
So does that make it time?
Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. I'm glad we got
Thank
this
you, Mark and
organized
Kate.
for you. I apologize for trying to figure it out.
If I could remind